War has always been a brutal blend of chaos and genius, but in the history of the United States military, some of the most unforgettable victories weren't won by sheer firepower or numbers. They were achieved through deception, creativity, and a touch of madness. The American Army, from its birth and revolution to the digital age, has mastered the art of the weird and unexpected. And it's these strange, ingenious tactics that have left enemies baffled, allies amazed, and historians shaking their heads in disbelief. Imagine a battlefield where sound, illusion, and art become weapons, where the goal isn't just to fight the enemy, but to make them see ghosts, hear armies that aren't there, and surrender to fears born from shadows. That was the vision behind one of the strangest military units in American history, the Ghost Army of World War II. Created in 1944, this secret division wasn't armed with rifles or tanks. It was armed with rubber, paint, and sound. Its members were artists, designers, and sound engineers, not soldiers. Their mission? To convince the Germans that massive Allied divisions were advancing in places they weren't. They built life-size inflatable tanks, fake airfields, and entire camps made from canvas and plywood. They played recordings of engine roars and troop chatter through powerful speakers. At night, they moved the fake equipment, creating the illusion of massive troop movements. To German scouts in the air, it looked real. Hundreds of tanks, thousands of soldiers, ready to strike. And the Germans fell for it. The Ghost Army diverted entire enemy divisions, saving countless American lives. It was war as theater, deception as art. But that wasn't the first time the Americans had used creativity as a weapon. Centuries earlier, during the Revolutionary War, George Washington proved that cunning could defeat an empire. When his army faced annihilation in 1776, he used trickery to survive. At Trenton, he lit hundreds of campfires along the Delaware River, making it look like his troops were encamped for the night. Then, under cover of darkness, he led his men across the river for a surprise attack. The British awoke to empty camps and the sound of musket fire. It was one of the most brilliant deceptions in early military history, and it turned the tide of the war. Fast forward to World War I, and American engineers took camouflage to another level. They built hollow steel observation trees, disguised posts where snipers and spotters could hide inside, watching enemy movements through tiny slits. From a distance, they looked like shattered tree trunks left from artillery fire. Up close, they were works of art and engineering genius. Soldiers risked their lives replacing real trees with fake ones overnight, just to gain a better view of the front lines. In some cases, men stayed hidden inside them for days, invisible to the enemy just meters away. But perhaps no era of American warfare matched the sheer strangeness of the experiments that came during World War II. As scientists and strategists scrambled for any advantage, the ideas became increasingly bizarre. One of the wildest was Project X-ray, also known as the Bat Bomb Project. The concept was simple. Attach tiny incendiary explosives to bats, release them over Japanese cities at dawn, and let them roost inside wooden buildings before the devices detonated. The result? A city in flames. The tests worked so well that the bats accidentally burned down parts of the U.S. Air Force's own testing range. But before the project could be fully realized, the atomic bomb made it obsolete. Then came Project Pigeon, brainchild of B.F. Skinner. He believed he could train pigeons to guide bombs by pecking at a target image on a screen. When the bird kept the target centered, the bomb would stay on course. And incredibly, it worked. The pigeons were accurate, reliable, and surprisingly quick learners. But in the end, the military couldn't bring itself to trust a billion-dollar weapon to a bird. The idea was shelved, and Skinner's genius faded into legend. Yet, the Americans didn't just use animals in art. They mastered psychological warfare. In Vietnam, the U.S. military faced an invisible enemy who moved silently through the jungle. So they turned fear itself into a weapon. One of their strangest tactics was called Operation Wandering Soul. Knowing that many Vietnamese believed the souls of the dead would wander the earth if their bodies weren't properly buried, the Americans created ghostly recordings of wailing voices, whispering in Vietnamese, "My body is gone. Go home, my brothers." These eerie sounds were played at night through loudspeakers hidden in the trees. Enemy soldiers fled, terrified, believing the jungle was haunted by the spirits of the dead. It was chilling, cruel, and effective. But the creativity didn't end in the 20th century. During the Cold War, deception evolved. The CIA experimented with absurd inventions straight out of a spy movie, exploding cigars, invisible ink, and even plans to make Fidel Castro's beard fall out to undermine his image. In one operation, they tried to create a holy apparition by projecting light in the sky to convince Cuban citizens that God was speaking against their leader. It never worked, but the audacity of it still stuns historians. In modern times, warfare has entered the digital realm, but the weirdness remains. During the Iraq War, American forces used fake radio chatter, holographic projections, and cyber deception to confuse insurgents. They could make phantom units appear on radar, feed false intelligence to enemy networks, and create the illusion of overwhelming presence. Technology became the new ghost army. And through it all, one theme remains clear. The American Army's greatest weapon has never been its machines. It's been its imagination. Because in war, the power to deceive is the power to survive. The strangest tactics often come from the deepest necessity. From fake forests to phantom troops, from haunted jungles to pigeons steering bombs, these bizarre innovations remind us that victory doesn't always belong to the strongest. It belongs to the cleverest. So the next time you think of warfare, remember, behind every grand strategy, there's a story of madness and creativity so bold it almost seems impossible. And yet, these were real operations, born from the minds of soldiers and dreamers who refused to think conventionally. Perhaps that's what truly defines American military history, not just its power, but its unrelenting willingness to think outside the battlefield. Did this dive into America's weirdest wartime tactics surprise you? Then don't miss How a Dictator Lost Everything Overnight, where we uncovered the shocking downfall of one man whose empire crumbled faster than anyone imagined.